Hello guys, welcome back to Bike Matters. My name is Alex and this is the Royal Enfield Hunter 350. So we've had the Royal Enfield Hunter 350 here alongside the classic 350, which is just out of shot over there, looking beautiful as always. But the Royal Enfield Hunter is a phenomenal bike, I've got to say. In terms of what it does on the road, the way it handles, the way it just makes everything so easy, it's just a really nice bike to ride. And let's talk about just individual little bits and pieces about the bike that make it really special for me. First up, always, I like to start with the motor. The motor is a J-Series 349 air oil cooled single cylinder. You will also find this on the classic 350 that's just out of shot, and also the Meteor 350. It's a new motor that was launched with the Meteor, and it's just a frugal single cylinder. Peak power is around 20 brake horsepower, and peak torque is around 27 newton-meters of torque, or 20 foot-pounds roughly. That's not earth-shattering power, it's not earth-shattering speeds that this can get to. Royal Enfield have capped it at 71-ish miles per hour. The actual speed that you see on the speedometer is around about 78. Felix got it to 80 miles an hour indicated, but I was only able to get around about 72 whilst I was riding the Royal Enfield behind him, and I wasn't too far off his pace. So you don't buy one of these bikes for the top speed. You buy one of these bikes for what it can do off the beaten path. If you take this down some country roads and country lanes, this thing really starts to shine. When these got dropped off to us, I instantly took this all the way to Norwich on the dual carriageway and then onto some A roads and stuff like that. And I rode around on some pretty boring roads, I won't lie. And then thought, rather than just get home as quick as possible, let's do the classic biker thing and just get lost in the countryside. So pointed my nose anywhere in the countryside, just took some nice routes. Obviously, I know the way roughly home, and I had the best time on this bike, honestly. The countryside road is where this thing opens up its spirit, and it really just loves it out there. You can also ride around towns and cities nicely. The wheelbase is 1370 mil, so quite nice and narrow. It's quite a compact feeling bike. And as you can see, I'm quite a tall rider. I'm 6'3". And I did feel a little bit too big for this. The seat is 790 mil. So in terms of the proportions, the rider triangle, as you'd call it, it was comfortable and neutral, but after a lot of sitting in the saddle, did start to feel a little bit uncomfortable, especially on the dual carriageway roads where you're just sat there holding the throttle open and just getting up to speed and sitting there. This thing's really maneuverable though, so if you're riding around towns and cities, the low end and mid end torque, getting up to 30 for example, is so nice. It just really delivers it nicely. It's quite a gentle but exhilarating ride, if you know what I mean. You can jump on this bike, accelerate up to 30, get up with the sort of city traffic as the max speed in cities is usually like 20 miles an hour now, but you can just nip about and it's just really good fun to ride this around. In terms of that power, I will just add on as well that the 0 to 30 time is really quick. 0 to 60 is okay. You start to feel it peter off with power when you get to around 50 miles an hour. And then when you get to 60 to 70, where it reaches sort of max velocity, you just take a while to get to 70, I won't lie. There's only 5 gears on this one and 5th feels like a bit of an overdrive. There's only a little LCD display inside that has the gear indicator, your time, your odometer, and just those sort of basic bits with the speed going around, analog on the top. I think it's quite a nice design, but personally I would like to see some revs on there as well. But at the same time, that just means you have to listen out for the engine and sort of do what feels right rather than looks right, if that makes sense. Moving elsewhere, you've got 17-inch wheels, front and rear. The rubber is provided by Seat Zoom XL. I'm not really sure on the brand. I think it might be a Pirelli spin-off, I'm like 10% sure. But because it's 17-inch wheels, if you then look at alternative options on the market, you're going to be finding the perfect rubber for you, no pun intended. In terms of braking power, you've got a big 300mm disc at the front and a 270mm disc at the rear. There's dual channel ABS, and I found that the brakes are quite soft, so initial application, you really have to squeeze the lever for it to start actually reacting. But at the same time, that's quite nice, because if you're stepping up to this bike, say from a 125, you're not going to want really bitey brakes because that's quite unsettling, especially if you accidentally grab a little bit of fistful of brakes going mid-corner because you sort of spot something that you're a bit scared of, it's not just going to grab the brake and just low side you. You're going to be able to apply a little bit of brake. Wouldn't recommend it at all, but it will let you get away with it, if you know what I mean. This bike is quite forgiving like that. And you can even do a little bit of trail braking once you sort of build your confidence going into corners. And it's quite a nice foundation step from, say, the 125 to A2, then upwards to the bigger capacities. And that's quite a nice point as well, actually. When you're looking at a 125cc motorcycle, its top speed is around 70 miles per hour, and the peak torque is usually around, what, like 12 newton meters or something like that. It's nothing huge. This one steps it up to around 27 newton meters of torque, and I would comfortably say that a lot of 125cc riders could jump on this and adjust no riding at all. They'll find this really easy to ride and just find it nice and sort of comforting in a way. I found it great fun to ride, and I've ridden loads of random bikes, and Royal Enfield really do smash it with their accessibility as well as the option to customize. Before I get to the customization options and something that I saw really nice at the bike shed, we'll talk about the suspension. You've got a 41mm telescopic fork at the front, and you've got twin shocks at the rear. You can adjust the rear for preloads. I think it's 6 steps up and down. The front is not adjustable. The front is quite soft, the rear is quite hard in its original setting, but you can adjust that yourself. I found it nice and comfortable, really. If you go over successive bumps, it does start to get a little bit bumpy and wavy, but at the same time, it's only a 350 and you're not going to expect like rock hard suspension for track use. Though this could make a very nice track series bike, I won't lie. That does actually nicely take me to a custom option that we saw at the Bike Shed Moto Show recently. Now, they had a Hunter 350 that was in a sort of urban tiger inspired camouflage outfit, and I thought it was stunning, honestly. Maybe we can throw a little photo or video on screen of what we saw, but accessory options, there's going to be loads. Royal Enfield love accessories, and so do I. I mean, you can get a screen on here, you can get panniers, you can get some sort of tank guards, sump guards, you can get just all sorts of stuff on here, and that's really what Royal Enfield excel at, is making a bike that you can access and turn into whatever you want to turn it into. And I really do like the style that Royal Enfield have gone for on this Hunter 350. This thing sounds incredible, I've got to say. The single cylinder is bang on. It may not have the most power in the world, but it sounds beautiful, I've got to say. In terms of weight, I will just throw in that the weight itself is 181 kilograms wet. And as I say, because of the lightweight and because of the tight turning circle, you really have a big steering lock on this one. You can just whip it around in some tight spaces, and it's just so easy to use. You know, the throttle being nice and smooth with the torque and nice delivery to the engine. It all just comes together in a really nice package. And to cover a really informative bit as well, the tank size is 13 litres. Royal Enfield say you can get around about 300 miles from a tank. We found it a little bit closer to 230. In any case, 13 litres, you can get easily 200 miles from a tank, and that makes it a superb frugal commuter. Because filling this up, you're going to be going to and from your town centre, college, work, wherever you're going to be going. And you know that you're going to get a load of trips out of this, especially because you can only go 70 miles an hour. There's only so far you can go. And for your money, this bike is great. I mean, the £3,979 that you pay for the two-tone colour scheme, or the £3,899 that you pay for the single colour scheme, is just incredible. And you get so much for your money, even though Royal Enfield, as always, keep it nice and basic with the sort of rider tech. There's no electronics, gadgets and things getting in the way. It's just pure riding bliss. Ride everywhere, open throttle, and get it up to 60 miles an hour on the back roads. You just start throwing this thing into corners. I know on the launch for this one, you may have seen some of the other journalists go to Thailand where they had us go on the mini kart track there, and that looked like such fun. You know, the thing just loves being chucked into corners. And whilst on the edge of the rubber, like when you're really leaned over, it does feel a little bit twitchy. For the most part, this thing just handles incredibly well, and it's really confidence-inspiring riding something like that. So let's round this video up. I'll throw in a few pros of this bike. Now, I think first of all, the price is a massive bonus for this, under £4,000, and you get a stunning motorcycle that can do it all, really confidence inspiring. And my second point is the fact that this is so easy to ride. Anyone can jump on this and get anything out of it. You can ride it as a commuter, you can ride it really heavy and hard at the weekends into the countryside roads, or you can just do everything in between. And this thing is going to be with you the whole way. It's built really nicely. Point 3, the style, I think it just looks beautiful. And of course, there's going to be so many options to customize this in any way you want. And that's something that I really appreciate from Royal Enfield. Cons, I'm going to, of course, have to throw in the fact that it can only go 71 miles an hour. I'm sure this motor has more in it than that. I think it can probably get to around 80, 85 without breaking a sweat. So whether or not your Euro 5 emissions regulations were part of the reason that Royal Enfield had to cut the top speed, I'm not sure. But in any case, the power is a bit of a negative. Something else that you have to be aware of on this, of course, is the brakes are nice and soft, but you know, if you're jumping on this bike and really hammering it around, sometimes you want a little bit more feel through the brakes, and especially the rear brake lever is quite tucked in. Sometimes you can be waving your foot about and you have to sort of position it inwards a little bit, like a little sort of pigeon foot. But that's such a minor negative. And also we did find a bit of a weird one. When you roll off the throttle on these, sometimes there's a bit of lag before the power goes off.
They really kind of like keep ticking, yeah.
And you get a little bit of dive on the front suspension because it's a little bit soft. But again, you accommodate your riding for that. And ultimately, this bike is so much fun to ride. You sort of get coaxed into going into the more scenic countryside route. And I think that's the best thing for this bike. You only want to be going 60 miles an hour max and just ripping it up on the back roads. And that's where all of the fun for motorcycling is had, to be honest with you. And if you're not here for fun, what are you here for?
Oh, man,
In any case, I think I'm going to leave the video there. Head over to lexhaminsurance.co.uk for the full written review. You click into the blog and then go scrolling through our reviews. You'll find this one there. Comment down below if you'd go for this one in a custom color scheme, if you'd go for this one at all. Have a check out some of our other videos. The classic 350 video is either live or going live soon. And check out some of our top 10s as well to see if your favorite bikes made our cut. If you haven't already, subscribe to Bike Matters because we've got so much on the way and I want to make sure that you get to see it all first. In any case, thank you so much for watching. My name is Alex. Ciao, and I'll see you on the next one.